Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. Welcome to episode 210 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comment section of this video. With all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy this video, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's get straight into this. Morgan Pogue says, "Hey Bossk, love the content, keep it up. Question for next week. Since next year is the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, do you think we'll get a 2-pack based on the Battle of the Heroes?" Now I've got to say, buddy, I absolutely love this idea. What a great question as well. Because we have talked about on the channel before and on various live streams how great it would be if in the anniversary year of Revenge of the Sith we could get a brand new Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. But what you've just come up with there is maybe a 2-pack based on the final duel. So my thoughts are that Hasbro could release a standard Obi-Wan Kenobi on a Revenge of the Sith card, very much like the one that they've done here, but of course all newly tooled and what have you. And the same with Anakin Skywalker in his sort of black and brown robes. That would be absolutely awesome. But then you could do the 2-pack very, very similar to the Obi-Wan and Darth Vader 2-pack that we got from the Obi-Wan series with the duel. But you could have all of their Jedi robes all scorched and burnt. Anakin could have his like yellow Sith eyes, and you could actually have the name pill Darth Vader, very similar to the, VC13, is it? I think it is, where they had the Darth Vader name pill and the Anakin name pill. But this one is specifically for that end scene, as I said, with all their robes all scorched and weathered. Amazing idea, and it's a great way for Hasbro to get 2 figures out of one sculpt, basically. So love the idea, buddy. Quad No Many Heist says, "I've given up on 1/12 Star Wars, G.I. Joe and Marvel Legends and have committed to 1/12 soft goods figs and 1/18 figs, including Star Wars. I keep hearing from certain channels that the vintage collection will be cancelled. Please tell me that's not the case." Yeah, I'm honestly not sure where you've heard that, buddy. That's the first I've heard of it. Maybe I'm not watching the correct channels. But I would say that the vintage collection isn't going anywhere, at least for the next couple of years. Steve Evans is on board. You can see that he's already produced those checklists. He seems pretty into it. I think they would be absolutely mad to cancel the vintage collection at this point in time. And I'm pretty sure that we've even got pipeline figures now for 2025. So it's definitely going to be here for the rest of this year. It's definitely going to be around in 2025. After that, we'll have to see how it goes. But in the short term, vintage collection is here to stay. Chris Worsley says, "What world building items would you most like to see in TVC just because they amuse you or suit your focus, even if chances are slim of Hasbro actually making them? For example, medium-sized ships, maybe a Bossk or Dengar ship, smaller vehicles like speeders missing from the line, Lars family speeder, diorama playset ideas not often mentioned, Tatooine street scene, Lars homestead, Rebel command center, etc. Or something else I haven't even thought of. Thanks and happy collecting." So yes, absolutely, I would love to see more world building items in the vintage collection, which I'm sure a lot of people would do. I think Hasbro are improving slightly in that area. We're getting smaller play sets, we're getting the massive dog, we're getting loft cats, that kind of thing. Little things which, build out that world. They could go a lot further, in my opinion. They could give us more things like this, speeders. We're missing Mandalorian speeders, we're missing Cobb Vanth speeders. I would like to see them do more things like moisture evaporators to go with things from Tatooine. Little things like that. Not necessarily like crates and boxes and things like that. I think the 3D community do a very good job with that kind of thing. But, moisture evaporators and just things that enhance the world and enhance the play sets. As I've mentioned, smaller vehicles, more beasts. I think on last week's video I featured the Iopi that Obi-Wan Kenobi uses, that sort of thing. That's the sort of thing we need to enhance the world building in the vintage collection. A Kirby Mock says, "Ask Bossk Bounty episodes are just simply great." Question for next week. "Towards the end of 2023, some online retailers, gossip groups suggested Hasbro were due to re-release some older, highly sought after figures, including the Black Series Emperor with throne, Cara Dune, etc. Not sure if any TVC figures. Did Hasbro pull the plug on this, or is this still on their to-do list?" Yeah, I don't think they pulled the plug on it, because I think we are seeing some of those items surface. So, for example, the Black Series wearable Stormtrooper helmet has been reissued in that original red and black box. The Vintage Collection AT-ST from the Mandalorian was reissued. That was on that list that was out there, rumoured. I just think that maybe some and not all of the things that are on that list are going to be re-released. I think some of those things are too far gone in my opinion, and I don't think they will be re-released. But for sure, some of them have indeed already been re-released that you can pre-order. So there you go. Oh, by the way, I did forget to mention at the very beginning of the video, on Saturday morning I went to Sandown Toy Fair, which I really enjoyed. I met up with some friends and Patreon supporters and other YouTubers and things like that, and I didn't really pick up too much from there. There wasn't really a great deal there for me, but they did have some loose sort of figures, and I picked up these 3 droids here. 2 for my sort of Empire Death Star kind of setup. They can just be in the background. And this guy here, I can't actually remember his name, Z something or Q something. Pretty sure he's from Jabba's Palace, so I needed him for my Jabba's Palace, so he's going to be in the background of Jabba's Palace. But I just want to say to anybody that's watching that was there yesterday that I met up with, Adam, Stu, the guys from the A Long Time Ago channel. Really good to meet you guys, some for the first time. And yeah, hope we can do it again soon. Kevin Wiznaye says, hey Bossk, I asked a question a while back about the possibility of a TIE Defender. Since HasLabs could be yearly for the vintage collection, what do you think the possibility of a TIE Defender is? I would also love an Ebon Hawk from the Knights of the Old Republic game. Appreciate the great work you do for us 3.75 inch collectors. So yeah, the TIE Defender, I've got to say, if that ended up being a HasLab, I'd be extremely disappointed, because I think the TIE Defender is a small enough vehicle just to be done in the main line. At the end of the day, it's 3 identical wings on a TIE fighter body. It would need a new sculpt, absolutely, but it's, in my opinion, you could get all of that into a fairly normal sized box. It does not need to be a HasLab. So, you know, I'm not saying I don't want a TIE Defender. I think they're very, very cool, but I wouldn't want it to be a HasLab. That would just have to be a general release for me. Channel member Blake Kemp says, g'day Tim, I was browsing your TVC checklist and was surprised by how many pipeline figures there are coming, hopefully all this year. So my question for next week is this the most figures that have ever been in the pipeline, and do you think these will all be coming throughout 2024? Cheers, mate. I do think it is. Yeah, I think it's kind of strange how many pipeline figures we do have, because it almost spoils what this year is going to be, because as far as I'm aware, all of the figures that are on the pipeline are going to be released in 2024, with the exception of that E-Wing pilot, which I think will be early 2025. So, you know, you can kind of look at that pipeline list and sort of work out, you know, which figures are going to be mainline, which ones won't, that kind of thing. And it doesn't really leave much else that's going to be released, apart from if there's any figures from, you know, new series, things like the Acolyte, perhaps, if that's scheduled and rumoured for summer 2024 this year now. You can imagine there'll be some figures to accompany that. So obviously we're not going to know about those until the series is out, because Lucasfilm don't like spoiling anything. But yeah, the pipeline is full, isn't it? There's so much that they've pipelined. So when we see the next live stream that they do, don't be surprised if the figures that they reveal, we already know about them. Very much like what happened on the previous live stream, because they've pipelined it all. Dwayne Cook says, another great video, sir. Question for next time. Do you think Hasbro will ever re-release the Gamorrean Guard? It's kind of an expensive on the secondary market, and with the new TVC Jabba coming out, people would like to get some for their display. I get this question loads and loads and loads, and I think I've featured it quite a few times on the channel, but I'm going to feature it again, because Hasbro, listen to the community. You need to get the Gamorrean Guard back out there, even if it's in just a 4-pack so people can have them for their displays. That reissued one that you brought out in 2018-19, that is already really expensive on the secondary market, which means you short packed it basically. You didn't produce enough of that particular figure, so you need to get the Gamorrean Guard back out there for collectors. So many people ask me this question, so it's obvious that there's a lot of people out there that need the figure. Channel member Shannon Patratz says, hey Bossk, thanks for all you do for the collector community. Question for next week. I've been seeing the new Hasbro discount 5 POA line hitting the store shelves in my area for a couple of weeks now, and so far as I can tell, the entire line seems to be warming the pegs. Do you think this will hurt the complete Star Wars line as a whole, including TVC? If it doesn't sell, I fear Hasbro might learn the wrong lessons if this new line of cheaper toys doesn't connect with the fans. So first off, no, I don't think it will affect TVC in the short term at least. But there's a couple of words in your question there that I just want to pull out just to sort of back up my theory on that. And the two words are in the last sentence there of toys and fans. So effectively this new 5POA line, I think it's called Epic Heroes, is a toy. It's aimed at kids, not the fans, if you like. So in my opinion, TVC is a collector line. It's the fan based line, and Hasbro also class it as that, so they actually separate them at Hasbro. So Steve Evans is now going to be working on Black Series, TVC, the sort of role play stuff. There is another section of Hasbro, another department of Hasbro that look after the kid line now. So there's no cross lines. I don't think the budgets affect each other. However, it will affect it in the long term, because if you're not getting kids interested in Star Wars right now and buying the toys, they're the collectors of the future. So that is worrying for it in the future, but in the short term, I don't think it'll affect it. You know, if this line doesn't resonate with not the fans, but resonate with kids, then ultimately it won't really affect TVC in the short term in terms of budgets anyway. So I don't think there's too much to worry about that. But yeah, it is a little bit worrying that, you know, if they're warming the pegs, then, you know, kids just aren't interested in Star Wars anymore, which is a bit worrying. Diego Sandoval says, hi Bossk, do you think we will ever see a Sarlaac pit in TVC? The legacy pack is very expensive and I'm worried that I would be one with the Force when Hasbro actually do a Sarlaac pit. Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? That it is expensive on the secondary market, and I think we probably missed the boat on that. Now the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi has passed us by. This goes back to that world building thing, you know, talking about moisture evaporators and small speeders, you know, little play sets or accessories like the Sarlaac pit, even if it's just literally the pit part, you know, without the surrounding sand and thing. Just the pit part would be great, just to go with our barges and our skiffs and things like that. So, but yeah, I believe we've probably missed the boat on it, buddy, unfortunately. Andy McGlink says, BB, love the show as always. Do you think we'll ever get another line of figures like the Legacy or Saga collection? They created such rare, unseen characters. I mean, I can't say what's going to happen like in 2 or 3 years in the future, you know, they might go that way, but I honestly don't really see the point at this moment in time. I think people think that if they created like a Legacy collection or a Saga collection, that we'd get all of these weird aliens and background characters and things like that. But for me, it would be just splitting the budget between TVC and that new line. They wouldn't sort of conjure up this whole new big budget for doing background aliens. And if they were to do these background aliens and other figures that you mentioned from the Saga collection or Legacy collection, that type of character, then why not just put them on a vintage collection card anyway? Because you're going to sell more that way. If you open up a new line of figures, then you're going to lose the sort of carded collectors of this classic Kenner style card back. So you'd actually make more money keeping it as TVC and just investing that new budget, wherever that came from, into putting background characters, aliens on TVC cards, which is kind of what TVC was there for when it came back, I believe. I think they said, you know, it's all about Cantina aliens and background aliens, and it never really went that way, did it? But yeah, I can't really see the point in releasing a new line of figures. Best thing to do is just keep them on this card, and then you get the carded collectors and the loose collectors buying them up. Molecule 5354 says, question for next week. With 2024 being the final season of the Bad Batch, do you think we'll finally get the rest of Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, in the TVC line? We already got Hunter, but there has yet to be Tech, Wrecker, Echo, Crosshair and Omega in the TVC 3.75 inch line. Well, considering that the third season has started and we don't even have any of their outfits from the first season, and let alone the repainted second season one, which the Black Series have, I think it's looking pretty unlikely that we're going to be seeing reveals of those anytime soon. Unfortunately, I mean, you know, it's one of them things, isn't it, with TVC, that we are shortchanged when it comes to that sort of thing. It really does actually annoy me when they bring out one character from a specific crew of characters. It's almost like, what's the point? What a waste that Hunter figure is right now. A proper waste. What are we going to do with that figure? I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a brilliant figure, it's a great figure, I love it, but it's not displayed anywhere in my collection because I don't have anything else to go with it. And yeah, Bad Batch Season 3's already started. Have we got the figures? No, we haven't. Will we get them? I doubt it. Toby Kelting says, hi Tim, I'm a huge fan of the original trilogy and pretty new to collecting TVC. Love your videos and your British accent. Your videos are very helpful when I decide to buy something new. Thanks. My question is, will Greedo, who was released in 2021 in 2 versions, but only as a 6-inch figure for the 50th anniversary Black Series, also come as a 3.75-inch TVC? The Power of the Force 50th anniversary version is very screen accurate. The one in the green outfit that you reviewed is great, but I'm hoping for the screen accurate version with the orange vest. Thanks so much and greetings from Germany. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would like a all-new Greedo in the vintage collection. I'm not too sure if that's ever going to happen anytime soon. However, this one is a pretty good version. This is the vintage Saga collection version from 2006, 2007. And my friend Daniel Chart is absolutely right. He told me this ages ago. I've just never done it. But if you get the trilogy collection version one from, wow, when was that? 2004, 2003, somewhere around there. He actually comes with a plastic vest, which is more accurate than this soft goods vest. So my advice is to get this one. You'll be able to get this one pretty cheap. And then get the trilogy version. You'll have a pretty much definitive Greedo, albeit that he won't have, you know, a lot of today's articulation. But he's still pretty good. Decent looking Greedo, that one. French Collector UK says, hi Tim, great job once again on these Ask Boss Bounty videos. They brighten up my Sunday nights. Cheers, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, question for next week. With all the talk about getting new TVC HasLab every year, do you think there's a risk of customer fatigue? These vehicles are massive and take a large amount of space in our collecting rooms, so I'm not sure how many more people can store. In my opinion, it's only viable if they diversify the product range, e.g. figure packs, and limit huge vehicles to one every 2 to 3 years. Keen to hear your thoughts. So yeah, I kind of agree with that sentiment. Yeah, I don't think HasLabs necessarily have to be huge, great big ships. You know, they can diversify it with play sets, for example, or maybe even figure packs if that's even possible for them to do. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. The huge ships, whilst amazing, you know, like the barge and when we get the Ghost, whilst those are amazing, you know, we all have limited amount of space in our collecting rooms. So perhaps they do need to diversify it every year with, you know, maybe a playset, then a large vehicle, then figure packs or whatever. But whatever they decide to do, I agree with you. Flying Ryan PK says, hey BB, love watching your Ask Boss Bounty videos every Sunday. Question for next week. I know a lot of people are really burnt out on the Mandalorian, seeing as most of them are repaints, but what are the chances they give us a 4-pack of something like the Great Purge Survivors, some background Night Owls, or even some Children of the Watch? I think there is a lot of great designs they can pull from. Follow-up question, since they have been using the same mould for a lot of characters, what are the chances that we get some new figures based on the older characters from the Clone Wars or Rebels series, kind of like what they did with pre-Vizsla? So the first part of your question there, I think there's a huge possibility that they could create something like a, I don't know, like a Night Owls 4-pack or something like that. Because as you say, they like to repack, and it doesn't seem that Hasbro are burnt out on Mandalorians. They seem to be enjoying those quite a lot. And as much as I'd like to think that they might do the Purge Survivors or the Children of the Watch, I think those would probably involve new tooling. But the Night Owls, just different coloured Mandos from the sort of clan on the beach scene, for example, with the, you know, we're already getting the Mandalorian Judge pipelined. I could definitely see them doing more things like that. As with characters based on older characters from the Clone Wars or Rebels, kind of like what they did with pre-Vizsla, I think there's other things that they could do with the Imperial Officer sculpt, for example. You know, like Agent Callas from Rebels would be a fairly easy one for them to do, for example. So yeah, I think there's more things that they can do like that for characters from Rebels and Clone Wars, and I'm sure they will do it as well. Marco Martinez says, hello Boss Bounty, Marco from the Bronx. Thank you for your reviews of TVC. It's very helpful and informative to the community, and my family enjoys it. Keep it up. It's nice to hear that we are getting a blurg, which is only rumoured by the way, something new in the TVC line. My question is, do you think that Hasbro, looking at new media, would even make a Pelimotto figure from The Mandalorian, Luthen Rael, Dedra Meero from Andor, and with the Ghost coming out this year, and Agent Callas from Rebels? So I just mentioned Callas in the previous question. So yeah, Callas for me, now we've got that Imperial sculpt, just like they've done with Krennic and what they've done with, who was it, Thrawn. Absolutely, Callas is next up, surely, for a big character that wears the Imperial officer uniform. As for the others, I think some of those would involve new sculpts. I mean, Luthen Rail is right up there on my want list. I really do want him from Andor. Dedra Meero, I mean, again, you know, if they were to do a female officer sculpt for Dedra Meero, then that would open up a host of other possibilities as well, because we see other female officers in pretty much all of Star Wars, don't we? We see them in Andor, we see them in Ahsoka, we see them in Mandalorian, and even in Rebels as well. Conrad Pad says, hate him with all of the Captain Rex releases we're seeing. I'm a little worried that the Phase 1 Rex might get passed over. What are the odds that we'll see a Phase 1 Rex in the near future? So yeah, I mean, people say all of these Rex releases, I get what you mean. We had that awful one from the 3.75 inch Black Series repacked onto a TVC card, which is not a great Rex in comparison to newer figures. And then we had this one, which is based on the skinny clone. I'm not really a massive fan of this one either. However, the new one that they're bringing out on the Bad Batch card is for me a good enough Rex. That's where it should be, based on his Phase 2 look, of course. And I'm pretty sure, you know, they're not going to pass over a Phase 1 Rex. He's a huge character, loved by many people, and we're getting the Phase 1 clone in the next wave, actually, with the Dooku wave. Hopefully we'll all have our hands on that pretty soon. So, you know, that is kind of like a natural progression, isn't it, to doing some of the commanders and other types of officers from that Phase 1 sculpt. So from that point of view, I can't see them passing up on a Phase 1 Rex. I mean, you know, if you're talking about a named character in that uniform, he's possibly the first one they'd go to. Patreon supporter Josh Butts says, great video, Tim, as always. Question for next week. With the release of all the new media at the expense of movie figures, is starting to give me collection fatigue. We have over 330 figures and still no foundation characters like the heroes or even the Snowtrooper, one of my favourites. How do you combat collection fatigue, and how long do we need to wait before these gaps are filled? P.S. We need another episode with little Bossk, the people cry out. So yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I do quite enjoy the other characters, but I'm with you. I really do want those legacy characters from A New Hope. They're doing Princess Leia, so I think it's inevitable we will get the others in time. Maybe it'll take another year, maybe 2, but they're definitely on their radar. We're going to be getting them. It's the other characters as well that they definitely can't forget about, like an all-new Snowtrooper, as you mentioned there. We've got the AT-AT driver. We need a new version of him. They should have done the Endor Commando last year. I think we've missed the boat on that one, but that should have been released last year. So whilst I want them to do all of the legacy characters from the original trilogy, I also do not want them to forget about those other characters that I've mentioned there from the original trilogy. But I know also there are people, a lot of people out there that want figures from the new shows, and I think we need those as well. Hasbro just need to put more money into it and make more figures. Alright then guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. I do apologise if I didn't get round to answering your question this week, but fear not. Please leave it again in the comment section below for next week, and also if you have a new question for next week's episode, please leave that in the comment section below as well. I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members as always. Your support means a great deal to me. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.